If you're under 13, piss off.
Hello YouTube and welcome to another episode of Angry Dave's Adult RC. I'm your host, Angry Dave. Today we are here with another installment of the welding trailer. We got some oxy-acetylene torch tanks. We're going to use this little pile of debris to make some gauge regulator sets for them. So let's take a look at what we got and what we're going to do. Alright, so as you can see, I got one mocked up here already. I used a couple of these pieces, which I think are actually spare shock parts. They might be shock valves from a Wraith. It's been a while since I pulled them out, so I don't exactly remember, but I think that's what they are. And then there's just some pieces off the parts tree that I cut off, which are nice little pre-made round plastic. You can take slices. I think I sliced a few pieces off of this one to make these two upper gauges, and then some different diameter paper clips. They'll come in handy for a couple of different things. So what we're going to do is I got this one mocked, like I said. It still needs some finish work, but we'll take these pieces and I'll show you what I did to make it this, and then we'll take it from there and do some finishing. Alright, so the first thing we do is I got this nice little drill chuck. Goes down to absolute zero, so you can put teeny tiny little drill bits in it, and then I usually use it by hand. So we're going to throw a couple of small bits in it and pre-drill the holes that these little pieces of paper clip, these are the larger paper clip. Going to drill a couple holes for those in this, and then we'll take this piece here and we'll drill a couple holes in it and then slice off the other two gauges that we need. So I got a 1.5 millimeter drill bit installed there, and then if you look at this, there are a couple of little nubs on top that it was attached to the tree with. We're going to use those to line up the holes. We're going to do one in at this angle and one in at that angle. Alright, this takes too long by hand. We're going to get power drill. Much better. Now, we just rotate it so that the other angle is straight up, and repeat. I might need to trim this a little bit first. Here we go. Two 1.5 millimeter holes drilled. Might be kind of hard to see. Put a little extra light on there. Next, we'll drill a couple in this. We got the holes drilled. one hole, two hole. And then I took my dovetail saw right here, and I made a little score here and a little score here. Those represent where we're going to cut, obviously. So the next step is to just go ahead and cut. All right, and I went ahead and removed the towel so that I could get right down on the hard bench here, because I don't want that thing rocking and flopping around while I'm trying to cut. So I'm going to get this paper towel out of the way too. Okay, so now we have these three pieces roughed out, ready to go. Next thing we need to do is cut a couple pieces of paper clip. So nothing really to that, basically just put the paper clip in here, look at, where you want it to be roughly lengthwise, and give it a snip. We can always trim it down more later if we need to. Alright, there we go. We got gauges on the regulator. So the next thing we need to do is make the, I don't know what this part that protrudes, that's actually the handle. On a real regulator, this is the part that you spin one way or the other to raise or lower the flow pressure. So I guess the adjustment handle, you would call it. So we're going to make it out of a piece of this stuff. We got to turn this down just a little bit so that it fits in the hole in the center. And then once we got a piece that fits and is the right length, we drill a little cross hole so that we can put another piece of wire to make the actual handle like that. Alright, so the way we're going to turn this down is basically we just made a lathe by chucking that piece of plastic into the drill here. And then we're going to run a file against the end of it. Keep checking the diameter until it's correct. Not yet. Pretty close, just a little bit more, maybe with some sandpaper or a finer file. Winner. Alright, so that fits in there pretty good. It's not in all the way because one of these wires is sticking out into the hole, but I'll get that all adjusted later. So now the next thing is going to be to drill the cross hole, cut a little piece of wire to go through it, and then cut it off to length. Alright, so first we'll make a little bit of a score here. So we know where we're going to cut it off. And that will help position the hole. So we want to go, here's the hash mark. Here is where it's going to be up against the regulator body. So we want to go about in the middle. Here we go. Tiny little hole. Alright, so we got a piece of wire cut. Now it's time to chop this sucker off. Okay, so here's the regulator. Here's the center of the handle. Not going to push it in all the way. Here's the actual handle. And there we go. Now we got two. So now what I'm going to do is kind of run around everything with some sandpaper and a file and make sure everything's nice and clean. And then we'll glue all the pieces together. Alright, there we go. All filed up, sanded a bit. Obviously it's not painted or glued together yet, but it looks like a fucking gas regulator. Cool. So we'll go ahead and do all the same shit to the other one, then start gluing and painting. So we got them all glued together. We got the back painted. So let's go ahead and paint the front. I had a few different golds that I could choose from. I ended up using this one. I actually bought that to paint ceramics, but it's a nice bright gold, looks like a piece of polished brass, and I want that color to start with before we weather, because I'm gonna black wash it to bring out the detail and make it look a little dirtier, because this stuff is all weathered and worn out and scratched and everything, so I don't want them to look too pretty, but I want to make sure I have a appropriate color to start with so that they look correct when they're all done. There they are, all painted, nice and gold and shiny. Now we're going to make a little bit of detail work happen here. We're going to paint the gauge faces, and then after that we will black wash them. I'm going to use this Duplicolor Hot Tires tire paint pen. The white is now dry, and I took the X-Acto knife. I don't know if you can see that, but I made some little graduation score lines there. Once I make the black wash, they should fill up with black paint and become a little bit more visible, so it'll look like there's actually a graduated gauge face there. So I have this little cap with some water in it, and we're going to put just a little bit of black paint. I use the brush to help so I don't get too much. Mix it up. I guess I'll start with the backs like I did with the paint. This kind of stuff usually dries up pretty quickly. You don't have to be super careful with this technique. You just start slinging it on there. And you can kind of soak up some of the water so that it's not too wet and going to take forever to dry. That looks like I could probably use a little bit more paint. It's a little watery. Mix that up real good. Might want to prop that up on something so that it's not so inclined to pool up on one end. And then we'll just soak up some of the heavy stuff here. Just dab a little bit. We want it to look like it's been getting used and it's all dirty. So we'll let that dry for a few minutes and then flip them around and do the other side. Looking good. All done. So yeah, we got a little bit of dirtiness going on there to match the tanks. You know, they're kind of worn out and dirty. Kind of everything on this trailer is going to be kind of worn out and dirty. You want it to look mostly worked with. You know, there might be one or two newer looking things, or you know, different levels of used and skankiness. I guess we'll see how that all works out, but more or less everything is going to look like it's been on the job at least a few times. So I also there is a previous video. I'll leave a link. Maybe I'll link it in the end screen for the torch head that goes with these tanks. And I still have to find myself some red and green wire sheathing or hose or something to make you know, the hoses that go with the set. I got a few more items that I'm gonna make for that welding trailer, and then a few bits of weathering and things like that that we'll do directly to the trailer. I think I actually still have to get a set of wheels and tires. The wheels and tires that are on it, I believe I borrowed from my car trailer. So I want to put those back, and I'll get some wheels and tires for that. But yeah, there we go. There's another installment of the welding trailer. So if you like that, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Leave us a comment. Check us out on our social media pages. Share the video with a friend. And we'll see you next time on Adult RC, where grown-up time is playtime.